All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where on this show, we look at last night's slate, see what went well, what might not have gone as well. Then we look at today's slate, nice little 5-gamer. Not too much injury news, but a lot of questionable tags, so we will see. And then, of course, on the pre-lock show, we look at leverage plays, core plays, how we're actually utilizing the domination station on this slate, at least how I'm using it. It's pretty much what we do. That show is for VIP members only. Feel free to click the link in the description if you would like to have access to that. We also have a lot of cheat sheets and a lot of coaches in our Discord who give advice and things of that sort. So definitely a solid investment. I started off as a member here. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Look forward to seeing how this slate treats us. But before we do that, let's look at last night's slate. Man, when I'm telling you that last night ended up being a good night for me, I was pretty profitable, but I was not happy for the vast majority of the night. It just looked so bad. It looked so bad. Just the slate in general. It was looking like it might not be a very profitable slate. And then as soon as Stephen Curry turned it up in that second half, things really started to look better for me. I was able to have a top tier play, which was nice. Good to see. Good to see. But let's look at the $100,000 winning lineup. But actually, let's wait for that because I got to celebrate my guy, Nolan T, who crushed last night, had a nice 3K win, which is always nice to see that. So congrats to you, Nolan. Awesome line. I know you had Steph. I know our guy D'Lo and some of the Lakers disappointed us. I wish we could have had a little bit more upside there, but it happens. So let's start off. James Harden made the 100K winning lineup. We had a min percentage on him, so I don't think we missed out too much on that. Jaden Hardy was a core play. DeMar DeRozan was a B-Dubs leverage play. B-Dubs is one of the other DFS Army coaches. He has a leverage cheat sheet, so glad that panned out for him. Jarrett Vanderbilt did well last night, was really one of the few Lakers who really crushed. We had a min percentage on him. I don't recall if he was a leverage player or not, though. Christian Wood, Christian Wood has these games sometimes, especially in soft matchups. Just gonna have to accept your fate when it comes to Christian Wood these days. Didn't have him, but it happens. Kevin Porter Jr. was someone that we had exposure to, but I don't recall how much, but definitely not enough. Reggie Bullock made sense. And then Sandro was a core play as well. So yeah, solid night last night. Surprised Steph or Embiid didn't make this line, but all in all, good night. I'm not going to celebrate it too much. I know some people didn't have fantastic nights last night, so hopefully for those of you that didn't, things can turn around a little bit today. And like I said, we have a nice 5-game slate on deck. Nothing too crazy. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Let's start off with this Nuggets against the Pistons game. This spread is outrageous. 14.5 points is just a lot to try and overcome, and a lot. And you really don't like, for me at least personally, I don't like to hyper focus on potential blowouts because usually that leads itself to just lower ownership. And we've seen it's just really hard to predict blowouts, and spreads just aren't the best way of trying to predict those, in my opinion. But because of the risk of a blowout against this Pistons team that just isn't very good, but have been slightly better in keeping some games close, I'm still going to force exposure to Jokic if he stays around 10 to 13% ownership. Can almost guarantee he'll be a leverage play for me, just hoping for a miracle that this game stays close. It's a little bit harder for me to take shots on guys like Murray, Gordon, Porter when everyone's healthy. Looks like they're getting some decent ownership. We don't have extreme value on this slate, so if I had to guess, the domination station will give us some exposure naturally to these guys. But there's no one that I'm really looking forward to just being double the field on. Besides Jokic. The Pistons are in an interesting spot once again, but a lot less interesting than they have been. And the main reason for that is Jaden Ivey is listed as probable. You guys know I like playing guards against the Nuggets. I have some concerns here with Ivey, though. He's returning from an injury. He's been out for a while. There's a chance he might not see his same amount of run. If he was lower owned, it would be easy for me to make him a leverage play. But at 7K, I'm still open to it. I just need to kind of see how the slate continues to break out. If we get more injury news, if there's a reason for why Jaden Ivey's ownership might decrease more, then I'll be willing to take a heavier shot on him. But at 15% projected ownership, it's hard for me to put a 30% min on a guy like Ivey who might not see his regular run. Especially when other guys have been performing pretty well, like Killian Hayes and Corey Joseph. But Ivey's return is a bit of a ding to both of them, and it makes them less interesting. It also makes some of their bigs who have been in solid form lately, just they see a usage hit, and so they're not going to be as involved from like an offensive standpoint with Ivey returning as well. So I think we can definitely still play these guys, but they're just a lot less exciting than they were before. Jaden Ivey's the one who's probably the most interesting to me, but I want to see his ownership fall a little bit to really get excited about it. But as of right now, I'm fine just being around field weight, maybe a little bit higher than that, just to make sure I feel, just so I know I'm a little bit overexposed to a spot that I like, even though I have some concerns around his minutes. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kenrich Williams is the only guy who's really still out here. SGA has been playing for a while now. And so, again, like this is a healthy team against a Raptors team I do not like to pick on very often. SGA is a guy you can always have in your lines. This isn't a spot where I'm trying to force exposure to him tonight unless something just starts popping for him. The sim model is still being updated, so we don't have all the data that I usually utilize, but we should have that by the pre-lock show. So we'll see if SGA stands out from that standpoint, but I highly doubt it. Giddey and crew, I just don't like playing the Thunder when everyone's healthy outside of SGA. I know Jalen Williams has still been in solid form, even with SGA returning, but this matchup against the Raptors, I'm just not a fan of. So don't really plan on forcing exposure to these guys tonight. Slow start, but it gets better. I promise. All right. For the Raptors, Banton's out. The Raptors are a team that I pretty much always play and pretty much always have exposure to, and usually at least one or two of them are leverage plays for me. I talk about it all the time on this show. I won't rehash it, or maybe I will. They just play very consistent minutes. It's nice that we've been on this Jakob Poeltl train, and he's just been criminally underowned on every slate. And then he's just been coming through for us, and no one else has been playing him. He has ownership today at 15%. But a guy like Jakob Poeltl, I trust his upside. I like his upside. He's lower owned than the vast majority of the other starters on this team. Unless there's some insane big center value that happens as the day moves on, Jakob Poeltl is a guy that I want to be over the field on once again. I can't say that I will necessarily have 30%. Like, I don't know if it'll be a true leverage play for me, but I'll at least be in like that 20-25% range. Pascal Siakam was really steady for us for a while. He hasn't been playing as great here lately. And I think a lot of people think it has a lot to do with Jakob Poeltl and him just kind of taking more of the rebounds, and just his presence just is kind of impacting Siakam. He's even been scoring less as well. Scotty Barnes has kind of had the opposite issue, or the opposite of Siakam's situation. Scotty Barnes has been more involved than normal. And, we've been on the right side of Scotty Barnes here lately too, which is good to see. To be honest with you guys, I'm still figuring out which one I want to take a shot on. If I had to guess, it would be Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl as leverage plays, and then Siakam. Hopefully, I'll just have some exposure to him just to make me feel comfortable, but probably not where I'm going to land from like a leverage play standpoint. Fred VanVleet is viable, but I feel like he's a little bit better if I'm going for the balanced build approach, which I'm always okay with in some lines, but again, not something I'm really trying to force today. All right. Now we have the Kings, another team that's just really healthy. For the Kings, you guys know this isn't a team I really like to force exposure to when they're healthy, like most teams. The matchup against the Nets isn't my favorite, not one I really want to pick on. So it's another one where ownership is relatively low. I'm always fine taking shots on low-owned players, but just in general, this is not a game that I'm trying to have like 3 to 4 guys from in my lines. I'm more so okay with just 1, maybe 2. Sabonis and Fox are fine. I think for when it comes to Fox, I would rather have FVV, Fred VanVleet from the Raptors in the same price range. And in my opinion, slightly better upside here. There's always a chance he can be extremely efficient. They've been trusting him a lot to take on a lot of the offensive duties, but still not my favorite play, to be honest. Sabonis, I'm considering at low ownership. He's interesting, but I'll have to see if I can fit him in with some of the other bigs I'm forcing on this slate. For the Nets, man, these guys are just a little bit too cheap for the upside that they've shown they can bring to the table. The matchup against the Kings is a solid one. The Kings are totally okay with the opposing team scoring. They're just going to score more. So Spencer Dinwiddie is looking like the super chalk on this slate at 7,900. He's been in really good form. He's really been taking on a solid. He's really been involved in the offense for the Nets this season, or since he's joined the team. And I don't think that's a surprising take. Mikal Bridges at 8,300 has shown that he has decent upside. 15% feels a little low for me. So I'll be comfortable being around like 20-25% range. Hopefully that happens naturally. Nick Claxton, Sabonis isn't someone that we need to avoid. Claxton's not someone I'm forcing exposure to tonight, but I do plan on having some exposure to him. And similar story of Cam Johnson. I like the Nets tonight. I really prefer like Dinwiddie, Bridges, Cam Johnson, Claxton. DFS is fine, but he's just one of the lower usage guys on this team. He's more of like the true 3-and-D guy for them right now. So a little bit less interested in him, but I do like the other 4 starters. This game is also tied with the second game with the Pacers and Bucks for the highest game total on the slate. This game does have a closer spread. So when that happens and when I recognize it does make me lean towards wanting to have more, or at least just having some exposure to Fox and Sabonis, but we'll just have to see how the rest of the slate breaks out. I'm hoping we get some really exciting news to make things a bit more fun. There's enough questionable tags in these last few games where I think it's possible, but don't want to get too wild with it yet. So when it comes to the Pacers, we have Tyrese Halliburton listed as questionable. Miles Turner is listed as questionable. Buddy Hield is listed as questionable. TJ McConnell is listed as questionable. Chris Duarte is out. Benedict McThurin's out. There's too many unknowns here to really be able to look at this situation realistically. But we've seen this situation play out enough. We know if Halliburton, Turner, Hield are out, it means that we want exposure to the Pacers tonight. Even if it's a difficult matchup, they're priced low enough where they would still be solid value on this slate. So I'm really hoping that at least 2 of these guys are out to make this slate a lot more interesting. The spread is already large at 13.5 points. It does make me wonder if we're already kind of expecting Halliburton to be out. But honestly, I would have a pretty large spread for the Bucks, even if Halliburton was playing. For the Bucks, it's a fantastic spot for Giannis. We've been playing bigs against the Pacers all year. If Miles Turner misses, that's even a better spot. Chris Middleton appears to be healthy. Brook Lopez is questionable. Grayson Allen is out. Goran Dragic is questionable. Jay Crowder is probable. So Brook Lopez, if he ends up getting ruled out, that could definitely give us a few more exciting plays on this slate. I think it's a boost to Giannis and a boost to Portis as well. And yeah, like a usage rate for the other guys as well. But for me, I think the guys that I would be the most interested in are Bobby Portis and Giannis. Less interested in Bobby if he doesn't start, but I would assume he does if Brook Lopez actually ends up being out. If everyone ends up playing here, I think Giannis is really the main guy on my radar, which isn't a surprise. I think everyone's going to have some interest in Giannis, but because we don't have a ton of value options, it's going to be a little bit harder for most people to force exposure to him, whereas I'm just willing to do it by any means necessary. And it looks like his ownership's just continuing to fall, so hopefully that sticks. Next up, we have the Orlando Magic. The Magic, they only have Gary Harris listed as questionable. You guys know I'm biased against this Magic team. They're not really a team that I like to force exposure to, but the Domination Station, if it gives me any exposure to the Magic, I'm totally fine with it. So that's where I'm at now. Not overly concerned about No one just really stands out for me too much in this tough matchup against the Suns. The lower ownership than some of the other teams does make them more interesting, but just not a fan of this spot with them pretty much healthy and in a tough matchup. The Suns are more interesting to me per usual. Devin Booker at 10% ownership just feels a little bit too low, so he's on my radar as a potential leverage play. Chris Paul is never a guy I force exposure to anymore, but ideally I'll be around field weight. DeAndre Ayton is one of those bigs that I do like a lot on this slate, but like I've already said, I like Jokic, I like Giannis. I already like paying up for quite a few bigs. I like Podol. Podol's not really paying up, but still another big I like. So I already have three bigs I'm forcing exposure to. And Aiton's already at 20% projected ownership. So I doubt I'll be able to make him like a 40% leverage play, but he is someone that I do want exposure to for sure on this slate. The Koki play, I don't think has been going as well here lately. I need to look at this a little bit closer just to make sure. It does look like he has some decent ownership tonight. So I need to just go back and see how the last few games have gone for him to see if I'm willing to take a shot on him once again, because we have been on him over the last two slates. So the ownership of 20% means he's not going to be sneaky. He's just kind of like a relative value play for people to force in some of the other plays they want. Like even Cameron Payne's getting ownership. Like we're desperate for value when we're playing Cameron Payne. He's isn't even playing like 20 plus minutes right now. That's a little bit tough for me to swallow. But if I have to eat it to get some of the more expensive guys I want, I'm fine with it, but I don't want to go over the field on him. Taco said, "Your mouse is going sicko mode." I have ADD, man. I'm kidding. I don't really know if I have ADD, but I always just kind of shake a little bit. I'll watch out for it. All right, guys. That's pretty much this slate. I know we just kind of ran through things, but just quick recap. I like Jokic. I like Giannis. I don't think that's too crazy. I'm hoping we get some value from that Pacers game so I can really attack that game so I can get the more expensive guys I want. Ideally, that's how this slate goes. If not, we'll talk about it more so on the pre-lock show. Look forward to seeing everyone then. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye, guys.